I may or may not have procrastinated on making this video, but you know, better late than never. So, without further ado, here is a non-extensive list of live-action trans masc characters. I did post a video about animated characters, so you can go check that out if that's more your speed, although do keep in mind that I didn't include Barney because Dead End hadn't come out yet. But anyway, I guess I need to get started. That sounded aggressive. It was not meant to be. One day at a time. This is one of my favorite shows on this list, which is why I'm starting with it. There is a non-binary character named Sid, who is more of a side character, but they do have a decent amount of screen time once they are introduced. It's pretty uncommon to see non-binary characters on TV in general, but what's great about Sid is that they're not forced into androgyny. I don't think they're played by a non-binary actor, but honestly, it's just done well enough that I don't really care. Degrassi Next Generation. I find that a lot of people think that Adam Torres is bad representation, and he kind of is. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad he was included, but his character completely revolves around his identity. Like seriously, if you remove the trans aspect of his character, there is just no character left. Some of the episodes centered around Adam are a little bit offensive. Cough cough, cry me a river cough. I would have liked to see a happy ending for Adam, but Degrassi seemed to have a very different plan in mind for him. But that being said, he had a decent amount of screen time for the seasons he was a part of, which is more than I can say for some of the characters on this list. Degrassi Next Class. I am not the biggest fan of how Yael was written. It wasn't a happy coming out story, and the show did a pretty terrible job at handling it, in my opinion. It was pretty realistic at times, I'll give them that, but there was no closure. Like, did I miss a scene or something? It is better than Adam's ending though, but that is a pretty low bar, so. Good Girls. I originally started watching Good Girls just because Mae Whitman's in it, and then there was a character who ended up being trans. The only thing is he doesn't get a lot of screen time, like very, very little screen time, but the coming out scene, it was like 2 a.m. and I could not stop crying. It was so sweet. If you're not gonna watch the show, just watch that scene, I promise you. It is like the best thing I have ever seen. Feel Good. This is the only show that I have found so far with a non-binary character as the protagonist, but I would keep in mind that this show's main theme is addiction, so if that's gonna trigger you, maybe don't watch it. I personally really enjoyed this show, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but Mae's journey of discovering their gender happened very naturally. I mean, it is based off of a true story, and it wasn't in the forefront, but it popped up occasionally, and the actor is non-binary. I mean, they are playing themselves, so yeah, that's kind of a given. Sex Education. That is one hell of a name, isn't it? I am not gonna lie, I love this show, despite being ace and completely sex repulsed. We're introduced to Cal, a non-binary character, in season 4, and I really like them. They didn't quite get the happy ending I was looking for. I mean, come on people, is it really that hard to give the trans characters some closure? The Good Place. The Good Place is one of my favorite shows on Netflix, and I'd recommend it to pretty much everyone, but it's also an added bonus that there is technically a non-binary character. Janet is practically a god, like, I don't know how else to describe her, and even though she uses she/her pronouns, she is very, very clear about not being a girl, and I just love that, because being non-binary doesn't mean you have to use gender-neutral pronouns, because, you know, pronouns don't equal gender, so it's very cool. Glee. I started watching Glee in my early teens, and it's a bit of an annoying show, but also kind of addicting. Very similar to Miraculous, and based off of that alone, you can probably guess where this is going. I am not recommending this one. There is a lot of hateful language that's just thrown around carelessly, and then they pretend like the bad stuff never happened when something good does. And besides, Sheldon doesn't come out until like season 6, and Unique doesn't even join the main cast until like, season 4? So not really worth it, but I'd point it out anyway. Third Rock from the Sun is an oldie, but a goodie, and although the character I'm thinking of isn't considered trans, I'm still going to talk about the show because maybe you'll agree with me that it fits onto this list. Okay, so the basis of the show is that a group of aliens go to Earth to learn more about the planet, and they're in human skin suits or something, but the one who becomes Sally isn't a woman. Not sure if all of them are male or if they don't have genders, but Sally, who still opts to use she/her pronouns, sometimes references the fact that she's not female, but she also accepts her femininity. I don't know what it is about this show that just gives, like, queer vibes, but if you have access to it, then I'd give it a shot. It breaks a couple boundaries and I really like it. The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. So I already knew about Theo before I started watching, but I wanted to see when he would come into play, so I pulled up my laptop at 2 a.m. and skimmed through the entire first season in 4 hours. And then I watched the rest later because it was pretty good. And in terms of our trans character, I was honestly very surprised to see him in the first episode. I don't know why, but I just didn't think he was going to be a part of the main cast. I'm pretty happy with how his story unraveled overall. It felt quite authentic, and I found myself really connecting with the character, plus he does get a happy ending. Fair warning though, there is some really triggering transphobia in the earlier seasons, and some moments that really freak the hell out of me, but that's probably just because I'm afraid of everything. Like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was enough to give me nightmares. Never have I ever. So this one has a non-binary character, like, at the end of season 3. They're kind of like a blink if you miss it kind of representation. Just thought I'd mention it because I did like that they were included. Tales of the City. This show is very gay. Shauna, Margot, Jake, Dee Dee, Ben, Claire, Michael, all queer, and there's definitely more than that. Jake is a trans guy who's already transitioned, and I just love the story that they built for him in this show. His character arc was pretty good, and it wrapped up really nicely, so big thumbs up from me. The Umbrella Academy. I honestly didn't expect them to make his character trans, but I'm so fucking glad they did. I just love the way that Viktor was written for the Umbrella Academy. Despite the writers not intending on making him trans, he always seems that way to me for some reason, and when you compare the character between seasons, he just looks so much happier now. It warms my heart knowing that Viktor had a positive experience with coming out, and he's still a part of the family, if not more a part of the family. I don't know, I feel like they treat him better after he comes out. And you can tell that the writers did their research and also consulted with Elliot Page himself, because his character arc was just mwah, chef's kiss. The OA. This is kind of a last-minute addition, but Buck was a pretty prominent character within the OA, so I feel like it's necessary to include. Buck himself was pretty decently written. I mean, few of the side characters have much of an actual arc, but his trans identity was balanced nicely. However, season 2 rolls around and suddenly there's this whole new plotline that isn't related to Buck, but it is, and it involves constant dead naming and misgendering, and I just don't understand why. This show isn't really in my usual taste, so I don't know, maybe you'll like it. So that is the end of my compilation. If you can think of any other characters that I should add to my list, then please let me know. I am dying for more representation. Have a great day, friends.